All right, welcome to the Living Well by Jen podcast. This is 9 and 9 and this is our Q&A episode for the month of June in 2025. This is 9 and 9, Enneagram Wisdom for Life. Let's dive in. The first question that came in had to do with the subtype, Enneagram subtypes, and that is the theme that we have been in all month long for June. So if you want more information on the subtypes, listen to the episodes from June. And the first question that was submitted was, are the instincts, which then form out your subtype, are they nature or are they nurture? So the instincts are the idea of being a self-preserving dominant, a one-to-one dominant, or a social dominant person. And depending on which one is dominant for you, that really impacts the way your number gets expressed in the world. And so the question was, are they nature or nurture? And the answer is a little bit of both. And I know I'm not trying to cop out on that. So primarily they are nature. We know that every animal in the animal kingdom, including humans, are have all three instincts within us. So nobody only has one or two. Like, you have all three within you. You are social to some degree, you are one to one to some degree, and you are self-preserving to some degree. Now, so everybody has all three, and that's nature. Your dominant instinct is also pretty hardwired from the time you are born. And this is really cool because this is one of the things that you can really watch in your children. You can really notice a dominant or a repressed instinct in kids really, really young. And so I think that's kind of an interesting thing to know about your children. But so your dominant instinct, social, self-preserving, or one-to-one is going to be hardwired, and it's going to really impact a lot of how you express um, that internal motivation, which is your number. So the part that is nurture is going to be the way in which that dominant instinct gets played out. So, for example, uh, a self preserving dominant person, if they are in a home where um, they feel pretty safe all the time and they feel cared for and they feel like they have their basic needs met, but that's still a dominant instinct for them, it's going to show up in being really attuned to meal times and bedtimes and making sure that they're going to see the school nurse or the doctor, really being very hyper aware of their health, their sleep, their food, their energy, their need to rest. These are all just going to kind of be hardwired in, and you'll definitely see this. Now, that person, if they were in an environment that was very chaotic and they felt like their basic needs were kind of not met, that self-preserving dominance is going to show up maybe more as um, anxiety or hyper fixated on worry and being very, very insecure and fearful, and just really anxiety would be the biggest way. So you can see that, like, that's just one example of how you can have the dominant instinct, and then the nurture, the environment that you live in is impacting how that dominant instinct plays out. The next question is also related to subtypes, which is, what's more important? Is it more important that I know my subtype, or is it more important that I know my number? I think knowing your instinct, your dominant instinct, is really important. Because it's definitely coloring everything around you. And I think it's really important for how you interact with the outside world. So, knowing your instinct is important because it's going to impact how you interact with everyone else around you. But knowing your motivation is the most important thing for your own personal self awareness and growth and your relationship to yourself and to God. So, it would be hard for me to pick one or the other, but I'm gonna say it's more important to know your number and your motive, because it's gonna be where best place to be self-aware is gonna start, and then the instinct is also important because it really does color the way that that shows up. Here is one that came not from a podcast listener, but I posted on Facebook about submitting questions, and I got this question about from a reader that said she always is confused. She always comes down to either she is a 3 or she is a 7, and she cannot figure out which one it is. So, for a person who is very confused about which number they are, like if you come down to 2 numbers and you just are really, really struggling, there's a number of things that could be going on. In the case of the 3 and the 7, they have a lot of similarities. They're both future focused and very optimistic and action oriented. They are in the aggressive stance, meaning that, they drive life. They they just have a lot of similarities in that way. So you have to go beyond behavior because all of those are kind of behavior uh, qualities. If you were to go underneath behavior, you would want to go to, am I thinking, feeling, or doing dominant? So this is going to go for any of the numbers. Like you've got to figure out, are you living in your mind, in your heart, in your emotion, or are you living in the instinct world? Like that's your first job, no matter what your number is, no matter what your confusion is knowing what of the 3 triad points are you? Are you mostly in your head, mostly in your body, or mostly in your heart? This is going to tell us a lot. For example, between the 3 and the 7 is in their head. And for the 3, they're in their emotion and in their heart. So you can also look at what each number avoids to try and figure out like which one am I by. Would I rather avoid any type of pain or would I rather avoid any type of failure? Now, this is where I really think having an Enneagram coach is really, really helpful, or being in an Enneagram learning community, or in a group, in a class together, because you can learn so much from talking to other people of different numbers or to an Enneagram coach. And so, for the reader who wanted to know, are they a 3 or are they a 7? Um, my assignment to you is that you would figure out if you are in your head, your heart, or your gut most of the time. Figure out what your core emotion is. Are you uh, mostly in a place of fear, shame and sadness, or anger? Like those are the questions there. And then kind of a fun question between a 3 and a 7 is, would you do you need to have fun every single day, or do you need to have a win or a success every single day? This is a question that I get a lot, and I feel like it's relevant here for this, is that what is the best way to know my number? And so my first answer is to go back to episode number 1 of this podcast, because that is the question we answer in episode 1, is how to know your number and what is the best way. But as a review to that, I would say to do some kind of an assessment. I would be careful about the free ones. They're not very accurate or reliable. So reach out to me and know that I can offer you a paid assessment, or honestly, I can offer you just a coaching assessment where it's just you and I talking. I think some type of assessment is really helpful. From there, step 2 would be to learn and study and grow, and I like to encourage you to do that in community, so in a class or in a cohort together. And then the third thing is just to keep really, really operating that non-judgmental observation, the ability to look at yourself and evaluate and see what's really going on. That is a muscle that we have to practice using. And I have been now really working hard in the Enneagram for 5, almost 6 years now, and I'm still having to exercise that muscle of self-awareness, of non-judgmental observation. So that's just hugely important when you're trying to discover your number and then learn and grow from that discovery. Would you like me to do this again? I just would love your feedback. We're out here making content. If you have feedback, if you'd like to see one of these episodes again, just let us know and we'll throw one on the calendar. Feel free to just reach out, ask questions. I am the person who responds to all my messages. So you get me if you message me, and I'd love to hear from you.